pod bay doors, please, pal.
All right.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Look at the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
A Movie Odyssey with Brad Patel and Gus Trout.
I like a lot of sort of, I guess, I don't know what you call it, trip hop. I've heard it called acid jazz.
Okay, I got all that stuff.
Kind of jammy and all.
The new thing that I'm really into, it's called vaporwave, which I hate that name so much, but
that is a really lame name for
it is
vaporwave. I'm gonna write that down.
It's like real lo-fi. I'll send it to you. I think you'll love it. A lot of the music I like to listen to is while working is very like just electronic music that has like a
real
beat
zony,
exactly.
I like to get in the zone.
Yeah. Trip hop.
Vaporwaves.
I like the kind of basically, yes. I do. I like when it gets, I like real like melancholy, chill ass shit.
Lo-fi beats to study to or something like that.
Right. Don't group me in with those fuckers.
all my students listen to that.
Yeah, it is. I do like that stuff.
There's a few like YouTube, I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, they pop up on my YouTube all the time.
Yeah, like Zelda music to study to or stuff like that.
The orchestrated Zelda soundtrack will bring me to tears.
Breath of the Wild, great game.
I don't have I gotta.
So good.
The Switch is like maybe the only thing that I could get my wife into, like video game wise, like with Mario Kart and Mario.
They got a lot of stuff. They got like old PC games on there now, and
I like that you can just download stuff.
Yeah, it's my kids have one. That Zelda game, man, it's amazing. It's like
I can't wait to play it.
I played it like kind of a couple years ago, and I played it all the way through, and I remember liking it. Then when the pandemic hit, I was like, well, I'll start another Zelda campaign.
Yeah,
and it's like 70 hours. I mean, you can
make it like however many amount of hours.
If you kind of like explore and find things, and there's always something new. You know,
it's funny that's like the first thing I did too. I played
a video game.
Well, no, not only any video game, but I played through Zelda: Link to the Past.
Oh, which one is that?
That's the Super Nintendo one.
Okay,
that's with the. I think it's the first appearance of the Master Sword. I could be wrong.
Uh-oh.
All right.
I'm going to put this in the episode and then make you issue a correction because you got a bit of Zelda trivia wrong.
I remember playing it really young, and we couldn't even the concept of the dark world, because you play the light world and then you go into the dark world, and the dark world's more of the game than the light world. But it took me until like fourth grade to even get to randomly playing it off and on, and then it just slowly everything started clicking, and then the whole language of the game, cracked walls mean you put a bomb next to it, it blows up. This is there's just they
all still do that, by the way.
But it's like the language of the game, and that
I never played that one. I played
it's so good. A lot of
Skyward Sword, I think, on
that's on the Wii U, maybe.
No, it was just the straight up Wii. We had all three of those. We had a Wii, then we had a Wii U, now we got a Switch. Hey gang. Oh, I guess I'll start.
That was good. I was so in that with the flow of that, Brad. We were just on the same page. I loved it.
All right. Hey gang, it's Brad Patello here. I'm joined by my good friend Gus Trout. Today's film is Dr. Strangelove, our first Stanley Kubrick film. I'm really excited because Stanley Kubrick's my favorite director. I love this film. I love all of his films. He made me fall in love with the art of cinema more than any other single director. Everything he did is so iconic, and everything was different. Like all of his films, like each one was a different genre.
That was something I was thinking about, that this kind of mark the end a little bit of a certain era of his style of filmmaking because, well,
After this, we go
not,
into 2001,
which is
so,
just like next level. And
yeah.
then he does Clockwork Orange, which is a little more on the side of this movie, in my opinion. But it has that kind of weird, I would say this is closer to Clockwork than it is, because it's sort of like 2001 and everything after that other than Clockwork is I would almost group in the same.
Barry Lyndon too, and
Barry Lyndon, Shining,
Full Metal Jacket,
and Eyes
and
Wide
he
Shut. They all have that like hard Stanley vibe.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say Kubrickian again, although
well, I think it's a lot of it's in the pacing and the photography. He wants you to realize from moment to moment that you're watching a movie, except in some cases when he's doing like battle scenes, like in this movie and in Full Metal Jacket, the battle scenes are like handheld, but there's a lot of really, like, he'll find a really cool shot and just hold it for a long time. And
oh my God, some of the, you're just there. When Peter, okay, I was about to say when Peter Sellers does this. Okay, when the British officer is talking to the colonel or the general, he is talking to him. He's like, if you just give me the code, like at first he's trying to be stern with him, and then he realizes the doors are locked. And it's just a locked off.
Yeah.
Oneer.
Yeah.
For
a long time.
Yeah.
And there's a whole conversation and a whole evolution of emotions there too.
And then that one cut into that crazy low angle, like close up angle of the colonel or whatever he is.
But all of his photography is just so unique and iconic. I would say that this is kind of the second movie. So he did Lolita in '62, which also had Peter Sellers. And that was the first time he had complete creative control of a film. And that kind of begins the rest of his career, where he's just an auteur, he's just making whatever he wants to make. And
I've seen Lolita, but I cannot. I mean, I know the basic plot of it, but Paths of Glory it was one that took me a long time to see, and my dad was always like, "You gotta see that movie! Oh my gosh, I just rewatched on Turner Classic Movies. It's amazing." And it is
so depressing.
Yes, but it is. It's like Brett. He in all of his movies, there's just a moment of like breathtaking cinematography, and
oh yeah,
when
for his later movie, it's all the way through. For some of his movies, it's the whole movie is that.
Right. Where his earlier movies, with this movie, I mean, it's just, there is this contemporary modern feel to it. I'm talking like very modern. It just, there's something in the pacing and the editing that isn't quite there, but you can see there was moments where I was like, oh, that felt so Terry Gilliam, or this felt so this guy or that guy. Like, this is definitely. I
want to say that, I don't know, he's still kind of finding himself, I think, as a director. I think in 2001, he kind of is like, all right, this is who I am, and these are my movies. And this one feels like almost like a prototype, or not that it isn't as good, but it doesn't have all of his hallmarks, and he's still not.
I think the cool thing that happened in the 70s, that it was like, well, the American movies have like these cool plots, and they're kind of there's a lot of drama, and then the French people and the Europeans are shooting it kind of cooler and editing it different and breaking the rules and doing these cool things. And then in the 70s, people were like, why don't we kind of meld them all together, right?
Yeah.
I know this is 64, so he's like ahead of the curve.
You're seeing the seeds of that.
Exactly, because there's no fucking way that Stanley's not watching all these European movies.
Oh yeah, he was a cinephile too.
Yeah,
I mean, he was.
So his influence, and there's just something that's cool about this movie. It's in the timing of the cuts and how the comedy works, and the comedy is so contemporary, it's insane.
Yeah.
How he's talking, how the president is talking to the Russian leader
Yeah.
on the phone. It's Dmitry, right?
Dimitri.
Yeah.
A lot of that was improvised.
Holy shit. It's so good. And on top of how it's just like you're saying, like the shots and stuff, and where they're positioned and how they cut and stuff.
Yeah. So, he had done, of course, Paths of Glory, and then Spartacus in 1960, which
is really rough. And he hated that, right?
Yeah, that was more Kirk Douglas's movie.
Right.
He's credited as director, but he didn't have a lot of creative control. Kirk Douglas did. There's a kind of a famous photo with Stanley flipping off Kirk Douglas behind his back.
I am Spartacus.
Summarizes their relationship and the way they work together. But yeah, so after that was the last time that happened, where he didn't have complete creative control. And then, from 1962, when he did Lolita on, he was just kind of doing his own thing. He had his own studio. He had his own writing team, and just working with all his own people. And it's great. His filmography is just a who's who of like iconic films. I don't know, and I couldn't even pick one that's my favorite. I always go to like 2001. I feel like a lot of his films are, some of them anyway, have been talked about to death. Like I wouldn't want to do an episode on The Shining because we'd just be beating a dead horse in that case. There's like a whole movie about people talking about The Shining.
There's actually a movie that's not a documentary, Moonwalkers. It's all based off that, like they really did fake the moon landing. Ron Perlman is a like CIA agent, and he like tries to call up Stanley Kubrick.
Oh God.
And then he calls the wrong number, and these British guys are like, yeah, I'm Stanley Kubrick. What's up?
If you don't know, Stanley Kubrick helped fake the moon landing, and he admits it in The Shining via some subliminal messaging that he put in there, like the sweater the kid's wearing, which is a real theory. So yeah, this movie's from 1964. We'll go through the plot a little bit, I guess, and talk about
what movie around 1964 is as cool as this movie.
I can't think of any.
And you know what I'm talking about? When I'm saying cool ranges the how it is shot. For God's sakes, the title font.
Yeah. You saw a lot cooler films come out in the late 60s, I think, but I think he was kind of a pioneer a little bit of just, I don't know, everything.
So did he do Spartacus right before this?
It was
Lolita.
Yeah, Spartacus, then Lolita, then Strangelove.
Yeah.
60, 62, 64.
It's impressive. Yeah,
so
Lolita and this are definitely him like breaking away from Hollywood as hard as possible.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those two movies more than any represent the transitional period for him, like the post-Spartacus, pre-2001 era, where he's kind of finding his own voice. And so yeah, Peter Sellers in 3 roles. Famously, there are 3 kind of plot threads that you follow. The first is at Burleson Air Force Base, where Jack Ripper, the commanding officer, has ordered his planes to attack Russia. So yeah, it's a Cold War comedy. The Cold War, this is, he started making this.
This is actually the scariest movie ever made.
Right after the Cuban Missile Crisis. People thought World War III was just around the corner.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. The Cold War was a big deal. And the whole, like the politics that are in this, the idea of deterrence that keeps coming up, and mutually assured destruction, those are all real. That's all real politics that were happening. I mean,
well, don't you think that's what makes this movie actually terrifying?
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Well, so they put a thing at the beginning that says, it's the stated position of the Air Force that this could never happen. But apparently, like after this movie came out, a bunch of people were like, "Oh shit, we need to, we need to pass some
he
laws."
goes so hard into the technical aspect of, although like a lot of the President and George C. Scott like round table stuff is very funny, there is a lot of logic and research and smarts behind that stuff.
It's very methodical.
Yeah.
Just the way that they go about things, and kind of cold, the way that they're talking to each other on the plane when they're switching out the grids, and just everything's very, like, all the emotion is stripped away and it's all just process.
It adds a lot to the tension too.
Oh yeah. And it kind of goes on for a while too, like those like scenes where they kind of prepare to drop the bombs, and like when they're figuring out how much fuel they have left. And
I think what he's trying to do there, one, he is I think very into that methodical stuff, obviously. And almost to the point where he can't help himself. I think it could be cut down.
Probably.
I think this movie could be cut down a little bit.
It's only 95 minutes.
I know, but something about it just feels longer than it is.
Well, it's a lot of long takes and a lot of like,
and that's
scenes
that doesn't necessarily. It's like this. It's not the long takes, because, like I said, there's a slow burn effect of those long takes that make it so worth it. Most of the almost 99.99% of the time in this movie. But yeah, something about it could be chopped down a little bit.
All right, so the first plot takes place at Burleson Air Force Base, where the first instance of Peter Sellers, he plays Captain Mandrake. I forget what his title is. Captain, I think. He's the executive officer of Jack Ripper, played by Sterling Hayden. And he basically spends the whole film trying to talk him out of it. And I wanted to talk about that scene specifically that you brought up, where that really long take where Mandrake slowly realizes what's happening. He comes in with a radio. There's 3 camera setups. That whole scene has 3 camera setups. There's one really long wide shot.
Yeah.
But like he comes in with the radio and he's like, "Oh, look, they're playing music. We're not at war." And then slowly he realizes what's happening. Like, oh, this guy went mad and he's bombing Russia with no provocation.
Yeah.
And
at first he goes for aggression.
Well, there's a point.
Once he really learned, he's like, "Hey, like, I'm going to, damn it, sir, like, I'm going to walk out this door and I'm going to call a radio." And then he can't get out.
Yeah. "I must ask you for the key."
There's so many goddamn good lines in this movie. Most of my notes are just lines.
The other camera setup, so the second camera setup is that wild worm's eye shot of Ripper, where it's like his face is almost in silhouette.
And the cigar, yeah.
And he's got a cigar in his mouth and it's like cutting through his face, and it's just the craziest shot. And then the third setup's just
it's cool. It's a cool shot. It's so fucking cool.
And that one goes on for a while too. Where he's going through like the whole thing with fluoridation.
Yeah, fluids.
I think that's where he introduces the fluids.
I just wrote down fluids.
Yeah, there's a whole thing he has with body fluid. He goes mad. He decides he's going to order his planes to bomb Russia.
Yeah.
And there's several sort of conceits that we're asked to buy. Mainly the idea that there's, a group of planes that are poised to attack Russia at a moment's notice, which I was trying to figure out the logistics of that, because Burleson Air Force Base, where do you think it is? That we know that there's an army base 7 miles away. I thought they said Alpharetta, which would be in Georgia, but I think Burleson Air Force Base has to be in Alaska, right?
Man, I didn't even go that far. Yeah.
If those planes are going to fly out, because you look at the board and they're like surrounding Russia. They're all coming in from different directions.
Yeah.
Some are coming in from the Arctic.
But did that one leave from that? Like, or is it he's just making the order from that particular place, and it has not those CB or whatever CB2s, CB
CRM 114 discriminator.
Oh yeah, that one. Now it can fly real low.
Well, he
Did you-
apparently
did you hear
commands
about
40
the-
planes.
Yeah.
Apparently, all 40 of the planes answer to him.
But what I'm saying is, does that mean they're leaving from that particular base?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But so we're explained. This is explained in narration. There's like, they called it Operation Dropkick, and I don't think it was a real thing, but like, as basically they put into place this measure that's like a emergency retaliatory measure, to where if Russia happened to just straight up bomb us and destroy most of our major cities in a sneak attack, then a base commander can order planes into, and that's the whole thing with deterrence. Do you remember when George C. Scott is explaining like the wing attack plan R, and he says something about how there was an argument about it in the Senate, and there was some senator who said our deterrence doesn't lack credibility. That comes up a lot. The idea of like creating fear to attack. Like, you won't, if you attack us, we'll attack you. We'll both be destroyed, and nobody will.
Well, that's what, and that's what, when 51 minutes into the movie, when Dr. Strangelove actually shows up,
Right.
he's like, you know, he's explaining the logic behind the doomsday machine, and that it makes no fucking sense if you don't tell anybody about it. And he's like, well, we were about to tell everybody about it on Monday. Because what does he say? You know how Dimitri likes like theatrics or something like that.
There's all kinds of little throwaway lines to explain things.
It's a very, this is the second time I've seen this movie. And I think it's something every time you watch it, you'll pick something else up. Because there is a lot of insidey talk.
Oh yeah,
I've
seen it a bunch of times because I show it in class, and I'll talk about it in class. So.
I mean, is that War Room?
It was a set.
Was that depicted before this movie like that?
That set was apparently very impressive to a lot of people. They went through a lot of iterations of design, and
it's so iconic.
Like some ridiculous amount of wiring to light it up, and yeah, that was a really cool set. That's the second plot thread that we follow, is in the war room. We're with the president, also played by Peter Sellers, and George C. Scott in an amazing performance. Apparently.
Holy shit. I just wrote down, like, I love George C. Scott.
Well, apparently he hated this movie. He hated working on it. He wanted to play the character straight. And
he made him do like 3 takes, a straight take.
Kubrick wanted it. Well, I'm sure he did more than that. Like, Kubrick was famous for just ridiculous number of takes, just like David Fincher. But like, George C. Scott wanted to play the character straight, and Kubrick wanted him to be like a buffoon. So he started off like kind of tricking him. We're going to do a really wild take just to set the bar up here, and then we're going to do a bunch of like more subtle takes, and then they use the wild take. Apparently, George C. Scott, not a fan of this film. His character is so ridiculous, though.
But it's so, there is an honesty to it, though.
Oh yeah, you picture that. I mean, it's not that far off. I mean, to an actor, you're like, this is ridiculous, but
it's just when he gets one. I love. He's not an idiot.
No.
He like fully understands what's happening. He just like gets carried away. There's that moment at the end where he gets so carried away, and he's talking about how good the pilots are and how low they can fly and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That leads him. And then as he's going through that logic train, it hits him that, oh shit, like, these guys are that good. And
this is the end of the world here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Strangelove is telling the plan about like 1 to 10 ratio with men and women to, everybody's, all the men are like,
that whole scene is ridiculous. Yeah. So that has George C. Scott. So good. Like, he learns about it in the bathroom. There's that great scene where they introduce his character, and he's like sleeping with a secretary, and a secretary answers the phone, and it's
Really
another one
long
that's
thing.
like 5 minutes long or 6 minutes long, where she's like, they're talking, but she's like yelling.
What the
to
most
him.
impressive part is the George C. Scott coming out at the end and then finishing it off and like crawling over the bed and stuff.
Yeah, that's all one take.
Yeah.
And like the way they frame it with the mirrors, you see him come out in a mirror, and then he appears in another mirror, and then he
Stanley, you son of
and
the
yeah,
gum. He's just so much juicy fruit.
I wrote that down too. I wondered if that was some kind of thing, because the communications officer on the plane is also chewing a lot of gum. He's
Yeah.
constantly chewing gum too. So
Well, that's like a kind of American thing,
America.
chewing gum, baseball, and burgers,
Yeah, so the second plot at the War Room has two versions of Peter Sellers. He plays the president, and he also plays the titular character, Dr. Strangelove, who's like an ex-Nazi scientist.
which his one hand is like still possessed by the Nazi regime.
Which that was real too. He's like an amalgamation of three different people. After World War II, both the United States and Russia started snatching up Nazi scientists. Like, hey, come work for us.
Right. Yeah.
This guy was mostly based on a guy called Werner von Braun, who was a Nazi scientist who came to the United States and worked on our rocket program, worked on our
The
Apollo
rockets.
program.
Yeah, they're like really advanced rocket program. Yeah.
People thought it was based on Henry Kissinger, but apparently it wasn't. So the third plot takes place on the plane, one of the planes that's supposed to bomb Russia.
Right.
And actually, Peter Sellers was supposed to play the pilot here too, but
Really, I'm glad he didn't, because
yeah,
I do think that his three characters are so well thought out and performed, and
they're all different too.
and different. Yeah, like just in the right ways, just enough
Yeah,
that they're so completely different that you don't even. At the same time, you're like, yeah, that's Peter Sellers. But at the same time, you're like, that's the president, and that's Strangelove, and that's the British dude with the British mustache.
and they all work too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so he got sick, or he hurt himself or something, so he couldn't play Major Kong, the pilot. The part was offered to John Wayne. He turned it down.
Whoever this guy is, he kills it.
It
Couldn't
ended
be
up,
better.
yeah, it ended up being Slim Pickens, like the legendary character actor was also in Blazing Saddles and The Getaway with Steve McQueen. Did you see that one?
Oh no, I know. I mean, I've played a game that's based off of it called The Getaway.
It's a good movie. But yeah, this guy kills it. Slim Pickens, classic. That's who he is. Apparently, he wasn't really playing a character. It's who he really is. He was
Yeah,
like,
but that's what you need, kind of, for this kind
yeah.
of role.
Also, first movie of James Earl Jones, who plays the bombardier on the plane.
Yeah,
So
a good job.
The plane plot involves them. Well, they get this attack code, and they're just like, "Holy shit, what's happening?" They think that World War III is on. That it's
Like basically, they think that we've been bombed.
right, and Washington's gone, and all of our major cities have been bombed, and so they're retaliating basically.
Right, they're following orders, and this is, the highest order that they could basically get.
Yeah, so they're sent to bomb some missile complex, but it's revealed in the war room that there's a doomsday machine which will go off if they do.
That the Russians made. Yeah.
Yes, the Russians made a doomsday machine as a
I forgot about
as a
that
deterrent.
aspect. Yeah. So unbeknownst to George C. Scott, Peter Sellers' president character invites the Russian ambassador to the war room,
That's
which
right.
is to George C. Scott is like blasphemy.
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that's a very funny joke. It is a little bit on the nose for such an on the nose kind of movie.
I think all the humor is really on the nose in this.
That is like maybe pushing the line for me. Although I do like it, what in that scene, whenever they're bringing the Russian ambassador in, he's gonna see the big screen or the big board. That
Yeah.
he'll see the big board.
And
That's
he's like
fucking good. That is perfect.
where he's like trips and falls over and he keeps going. Like he thought he ruined the take, but he's like, he really did trip and fall over as he's like scrambling to like.
Yeah, you can see him right before they cut, like a frame before they cut. He like kind of makes like a smiley, like, whoops, I fucked up face. Like,
yeah. And that's the take they used.
Yeah. Well, I also noticed when Peter Sellers is doing one of the closing monologues of Strangelove, and all the Russian ambassadors behind him, and all of these generals and stuff are behind him. The Russian ambassador is hardly keeping it together.
Yeah, I know.
Just barely not like just losing it.
Well, that's another scene that was mostly improvised too. Like that whole thing where he loses control of his arm and he does the Nazi salute and then he pulls it back. And then it
starts choking him. Yeah.
There's a couple guys back there that are losing it because he's just going off. And that was unusual for Kubrick too. Like he's notoriously a control freak, and to have an actor improvise stuff and to leave it in there seems a little uncharacteristic.
Well, supposedly I didn't mean to start watching this stuff, but I started watching all of these like YouTube videos about Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, we'll have to do that one someday too.
And they were talking about all the actors talking about their experiences with that, and how he wasn't an actor. He didn't understand acting, like the process of it and all that stuff, which I guess I don't really either, because just the thought of saying those words makes me want to vomit in my mouth just a little bit. The understanding the actor's process, I don't know. But because a good actor is like, you don't realize how much work went into that because it's so good.
Yeah. No, it's like almost an invisible art form.
Yeah.
Like editing, like you don't notice it unless it's bad.
Right. And when it's really good, you really don't notice it.
Right.
Yeah. They were just talking about how like they kind of did one by the books and then they would kind of do a looser one. And he was he was less of a control freak than you. I think he would tell you if it was wrong.
Right.
But that was half of the part of all the takes is like, that's not it. He's looking for it.
Well, that's true. Within that context of that, he lets the actors bring their own kind of flavor to it where, all right, well, let's try something else. That if you didn't like that, there was a whole bit, I guess, when they first started filming The President, like where he had a cold. Like originally, the original idea was that the president had a bad flu while this was all going on. And you see him wiping his nose at the very beginning, but I don't know. I guess Stanley Kubrick was like, we need to play this character straight because he's the only one who understands the gravity of the situation. So
I wish people talked like how he talks.
Who, the president?
Yes, in the most dire situations, he's not losing his mind. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry, this happened. It isn't his fault.
Right.
This fucking general went crazy.
Of course I like to talk to you. Of course I like to say hello.
Yeah, and he's so kind, and his like how he rationalizes everything is very, I don't know, I appreciated it, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the most grounded performance, I guess. I mean,
but he's one of the funniest characters.
Yeah, I think it's just the way he's responding to the situation.
Yeah. It's like anti-comedy,
the right choice. Yeah, it's sort of the absence of comedy almost.
Yeah.
Because, his other two characters and, with Mandrake, he's basically imitating an RAF officer, which he used to do apparently when he was in the RAF. And with Strangelove, it's just wild. Like the characters, just kind of the way they're played is, I don't know, like
it's
Strangelove,
incredible.
you might not even know it was him unless somebody pointed it out.
Yeah, he's
like,
caked in like this very pale makeup.
yeah, and this accent and just the way he's clenching his teeth all the
Oh,
time.
just his introduction. Oh, hey, Strangelove. Like, oh yeah, that's what the name of the movie's called.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what do you think, Dr. Strangelove? And then he's like, how he like pushes himself off real quick from the desk, and just right off the bat, it's so classic.
You don't even see him till like 2/3 of the way through.
I don't think the first time I watched, I wrote it down 51 minutes in. I think, yeah, the second Watt viewing, the tension of the whole, at first it's like a certainty that the bomb's gonna like drop, and then they're like, well, don't worry about it. It was a mistake. This many people are gonna die. We're really sorry. Like, if you can, shoot down the plane. Well, guess what? If the bomb lands, there's this doomsday machine, so we're all fucked. That's the next big thing. And then it's like, hey, we shot down all the planes. Okay, we're okay. And so there's this constant back and forth tension of, is the bomb going to drop or not?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then when it finally fucking gets to where the bomb literally drops, it is the coolest concept. Like, whenever Stanley Kubrick thought of that in his head and how that was going to look and how he was going to ride the bomb down,
Yeah.
and just enjoy that moment of like pure
So iconic scene.
It's there's no way Stanley Kubrick wasn't like crying, laughing. Like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever thought of. It's going to be so cool.
I noticed in this last viewing that you can actually see off of the screen, though, like the rear screen projection behind him.
Really?
In that shot, you can actually see the bottom of it.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of rear screen projection stuff with the planes. They had a second unit that flew around the Arctic Circle getting plates for, like, what's over here, like left side of the plane, what's on the right side of the plane, and what's forward. And then outside the plane too, you have a model, like a little B-52 model with the
in the context of this movie, it works.
Oh yeah, it's fine. But apparently the plane was like accidentally flew into some like restricted airspace and was forced to make an emergency landing.
Oh God. That almost caused the nuclear war itself.
They almost caused an international incident. The plane had Dr. Strangelove painted on it too.
That's not a good idea. Because they even go into that, like, where'd that name come from? Oh, they got to pick their names.
Yeah. And his name was German for Strangelove.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the German word is, but it was literally translated to Strangelove.
There's a moment where the crazed general that's obsessed with fluids, when he takes his golf bag out.
Yeah.
He's got like a 50 caliber machine gun in there, or whatever it is. Maybe it's 35 caliber or something like that. He demanding that Peter Sellers helps him feed the ammo clip into it. There's so many great shots of Peter Sellers like looking straight down and like helping him and being so proper British, like he's helping.
Yeah.
But he hates it, and he's being, but he says something like a bunch of bullets come flying through the window. And he's like, the general says, "Two can play at this game, soldier." And he just starts firing back. And how he says it is just so Hunter S. Thompson. I understand that, what we know of Hunter S. Thompson, how he talks is, from like
right.
Fear and Loathing and stuff, and how Johnny Depp depicts him. But that cadence, it made me laugh so hard.
And then there's that bit about, oh, my leg. I never told you I got a bad leg.
Yeah. The string, it broke.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole like dynamic between those two is great. That's pretty much that plot. Like the entire plot on the Air Force Base is pretty much those two characters Then
Well,
you
shit,
get
but that other general, or the army guy comes in,
you
and
get Lieutenant or Colonel Bat Guano at the end.
yeah, yeah, if that really is your name.
Keenan Wynn. He's been in a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, he looked familiar to me. That scene, because it comes in. There's like a legal notepad that's been scribbled all over, and
Right.
it's the general has been writing the same nonsense over and over again. And Peter Sellers kind of figures out what the code is that he's been trying to get to send to the planes for them to. It's like the abort code,
Right.
and when he kills himself, so that guy's dead. Peter Sellers figures it out, and then he has to. It's getting so close to when they're going to drop the bomb, and he could stop it, and this fucking piece of shit does not trust him, and like that whole
He doesn't
sequence.
have all the info, of course. The Bat Guano character.
Yeah, but he's still being a piece of shit.
That whole scene at the phone, though, where he goes to the payphone and
Yeah.
like that whole back and forth, like, oh, they won't accept the charges, and then he's trying to figure out how to make the call. Eventually, has the guy shoot the Coke machine.
Yeah.
And that's so they get the code. But the one plane that we have been following was damaged. They thought they shot him down.
Yeah, they thought they shot him down.
But a missile exploded near the plane, damaging their radio and a bunch of other stuff, so they couldn't contact them. So they think the mission is still on, leading to that great scene with Slim Pickens riding the bomb down.
It's the I don't know, crescendo of the movie. I mean,
yeah,
when I just love that attitude of like, well, this is happening. I'm going to die, and I'm going to have the best fucking time. And there's a microsecond of him for him to get there. He's ready, man. he's like, well, I'm going. And now he rides it down like a true Texan or whatever, wherever he's from.
Well, before the bomb even drops too, he like fixes the wiring and gets the doors open, and he's like, oh, I guess this is it. Yeah. And he starts doing his Texas thing. And the other guys on the plane are just like going forward with their back and forth about lock this in, like pull this switch, and
there's a lot of that reminded me a lot of like Sam Raimi and Edgar Wright do a lot of those it's like a close up to an even closer up of somebody turning on a burner, putting the tea kettle on, then then putting the toast in, and then tea kettle starts to steam, and then the toast pops up, like all these quick shots. All
of the insert shots in this are great. Those those quick zooms you were talking about into the switches. And apparently that plane obviously was a set. It was supposed to be a B-52, which was state of the art.
The interiors.
Well, it's on a set, and apparently they didn't get any help because they didn't want, like, the army or whoever didn't want people knowing what it looked like. So they based it on, the whole set was based on a couple of pictures that appeared, I think, in Life magazine. They meticulously built this set to look like the interior of a plane, and apparently it was so accurate that the production was investigated afterward because they suspected them of espionage. Because
Jesus,
like even the radio thing, the CRM 114 was accurate to the point of like they didn't know how they did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all a set. It was all sound stages. The war room was on a sound stage.
I do remember hearing that during the post-production and the production of 2001, that NASA was calling his studio NASA East because of the like amount of people and talent and knowledge that they had going on in London at his studio.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, all his films had like tons of research that went into him. Apparently, he read a ton of books about just the Cold War and nuclear war to prepare for this. And
Well, you can tell he comes fucking prepared. Jesus Christ.
he definitely does his homework.
That's where it's kind of like the coolest part of the movie, and it's also maybe the downfall of the movie in some respects, especially to today's viewers, is how far he dives into that.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about just how different this is from modern movies.
But there is something that I think when you do show it to your class, don't they kind of, there must be a glimmer in their eye at points where they're like, holy shit, this is actually really cool.
No, they do.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's no score except for when Johnny comes marching home, which you only hear in the plane scenes. There's no music in this film.
Yeah, wow, I didn't think about that.
A song at the beginning, song at the end. Just everything's on a set.
The song at the end choice,
yeah,
I don't know if that's the start of that, but like, let's have something horrible happening with some kind of melancholy music going along with it.
There's a glimmer of hope in it, though, because they're gonna stash humans in the mines. And
oh right, don't know when. That is almost the most, actually that's like the scariest thing of the movie, is that end scene. It's just like with that music.
Yeah, last thing you see is just a bunch of bombs going off, and we'll meet again by
the specials.
Yes, Vera Lynn. The original ending, I wanted to talk about this. They shot a giant pie fight. Did you see that?
No.
So the war room, like, basically the original ending was the war room breaks out into a pie fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they have all those filmed it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they filmed it. I've seen pictures of it. I've not seen the footage that they shot, and I've tried very hard to find it.
Huh.
I don't know if Kubrick burned it or put it into a vault or what, but
yeah,
apparently it was just too silly.
This movie does straddle a line, like we're talking about, in the meticulousness of the dialogue, of the logic trains that they're all like, because a lot of it is like, all right, we sent them out. Why is this happening? Well, okay, this is how this happened. And it's a lot of that. It rides that. And then the comedy aspect is thrown in there in such a dry, perfect way.
Yeah, it's very dry. And it wasn't going to be a comedy originally. The first few versions of the script played it like a drama, but I don't know at what point it became a comedy.
The comedy makes it scarier.
Yeah, it's just so dark, and I don't know. The names are ridiculous too, like people's names in it.
Yeah,
the president's like Merkin Muffley or something. And Colonel Bat Guano and Jack D. Ripper.
Nothing beats Bat Guano. And Peter Sellers' characters, if that really is your name. Or... Is this just a phrase? But
it's been parodied a lot.
Until all the facts are in. Well, that is a phrase, right? Of course.
Well, he says that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but he says that at one point. Well, let's just wait on, because the George C. Scott says, let's wait on until all the facts are in about the general being insane.
his first inclination is to just go for it. Like, well, we might as well just bomb the shit out of Russia.
Yeah,
that's what he wants to do.
Instead of warning them, let's just bomb them to hell and kill all of them, and then it was just better than everybody dying.
I love George C. Scott's performance in this.
He's doing. I can't believe he doesn't. It'd be one thing if no one else was on that level or something, and he was just doing his own thing. But that the fact that it was maybe not. Maybe he feels like they're, he got the rug swept out from underneath him, or you know what I mean? Like he got duped, basically.
He's a serious actor. He doesn't want to play a buffoon. There was a change because of the Kennedy assassination. They changed a line of dialogue. This came out in January 64, which is just weeks after the assassination. Slim Pickens originally says, and if you look at it, you can see him mouth the word Dallas. A fellow could have a good weekend in Dallas with all that stuff, but they changed it to Vegas. But you can see him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense for him to say Dallas because he's
yeah.
Like him keeping his, whenever the shit goes down and they get because the code comes through and they have to read the code. They have to go into the code book, go down through the code book.
Yeah.
Then open the safe to pull out what that, it even means.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own envelope. And
yeah. They pull the envelope, read that. Then they're like, oh shit, this is what we have to do.
And they're doing everything like with pencils and paper too. Like when they're figuring out how much gas they have left, they're doing it like on paper with like a slide rule. So yeah, this is a great movie. I'm trying to, all right, let's see what I got.
Yeah. Hey, spoilers alert. We just spoils it all for you.
That's the whole movie.
That's the whole movie, guys. If you haven't seen this movie, even if we spoiled it, just how it plays off is so unique and cool and also kind of modern. I think there's no way you're not going to love this movie if you haven't seen it.
All right.
That's us. We just ended a podcast. Boom.
Time for a segment we call, What Are You Watching? Soon to have musical accompaniment. What are you watching? Gus, what are you watching?
I finally got to see Minari.
Oh, how was it?
Highly anticipated for me. I would say it met like it was as good as I was expecting it to be, or I was as happy as sometimes you have these expectations of what the movie's going to be. Maybe the trailer's amazing, and then you see the movie and it's like, well, it was good, but god damn it, it didn't hit that level that the trailer hit, And how the fuck does the trailer hit something in 30 seconds that this goddamn movie can't do in an hour? It's kind of upsetting.
How did you see it? Did you rent it?
I did rent it. It was $20. That probably will change sooner than later. It'll be, $5.99 or whatever.
So the trailer was better than the movie?
Oh, no. What I'm saying is that the trailer was as good as the movie, the expectations were matched.
Oh, okay.
Loved it. The score is incredible. It's on Spotify. I saved it. The acting is so good. You forget that they're acting. You just think you're just like watching these people live their lives and you're there. I think we should do an episode on it. It's so good. I absolutely loved it. It did give me a little bit of that, sometimes indie movies are really sad, like really, really sad.
Mm-hmm.
I did have that existential dread of like some horrible thing happening in the movie. And I don't want to spoil anything, but like, I don't know. It's not as horrible of an outcome as it could be, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, it's A24.
Yeah.
Looking it up here.
Brad Pitt, Plan B produced it. It was incredible. I can't recommend it more.
Cool. I saw the Soleil Moon Frye documentary. That's about it.
Wait, what is that?
She was
Punky
Brewster.
Yeah.
And
I
don't think she did much else besides
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. She dated Charlie Sheen for a while. That's in there. Okay. So the concept is that she had shot all this footage back in the late 80s, early 90s when she was like transitioning into teenage in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a bunch of friends who were like actors, like young actors at the time. And so she had a camera with her everywhere and she shot everything. And then she put it in a box for 20 years. And now we're seeing this footage for the first time.
It's called like a 90s Kids, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Kid 90 or something.
Yeah. Was it good?
It was all right. I mean,
then I'm not going to watch it.
The footage was interesting. It's short. I mean, it's like 70 minutes long.
Yeah.
The footage was interesting. If it was more of the footage, it probably would have been better. There's interviews with several of the people who are growing up now.
Yeah.
They're talking
love
about
I love
how-
documentaries that are only footage and pictures, and you hear the interviewers, you don't see them.
Yeah, that would have been a cooler film. But there's like these interviews with like David Arquette and
Yeah.
Balthazar Getty and Brian Martin Green. And they're just sort of pontificating about how Hollywood chews people up and spits them out and how it's bad for kids, which I kind of already knew.
Right.
And she apparently had a breast reduction surgery real early, like 15 or 16.
Oh my gosh.
She had a breast reduction because once her breasts developed, they were abnormally large. I mean, you hear about women doing that because like it creates health
Back
problems,
problems,
like
yeah.
back problems for them. But I don't know if it was that or if it was just she felt like self-conscious about it. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, the body manipulation that like is so normalized in Hollywood is insane.
Yeah, they talk about that. I guess, the documentary does talk about things that are interesting and the footage is interesting and it's short. So I guess,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to stop short of recommending it.
Yeah.
But I watched it.
Yeah.
It's what I watched. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Find us on Instagram, Brad Patello and Mr. Trouth on Instagram.
Look us up. Look up More Frames. We always got stuff going on. More Frames on Instagram. You can find
You
us.
got a comic you're doing, right?
Got a
That's your
comic.
own. That's your own Instagram, though, right?
Yeah, the comic is on Tapas and Webtoon. If you just look up Gus Trouth Tapas or Gus Trouth.
And I draw comics for the Erie Reader, so pick up an
There you
Erie
go.
Reader.
Everybody can do comics these days.
We all got comics and podcasts.
Yeah, find us, email us, DM us, tell us why we suck or why we're good.
Just tell us we're good.
Yeah, just tell us we're good.
I don't know
Come
if
on,
I
guys.
can take that kind of rejection.
Yeah. Me neither.